And we're live. Well, hey everyone, thank you for tuning in. I'm here with Hunter Avallone, a political commentator that not too long ago has made an announcement to his fan base concerning a shift in his political views. Now, most of his fan base continued to support him, but on the other hand, he has gotten some backlash over this, especially after one of his most recent videos entitled Why I Left the Right. So thank you for being here, Hunter. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
Okay. Now, first off, there has been a few misconceptions surrounding your political shift. So to clarify for everyone, where do you place yourself on the political spectrum?
Right now, I'm kind of calling myself a centrist, and I am fully aware of the disgusting connotation that usually is associated with that term. I think that a lot of people, and you know what, I'm included in this. I used to believe this too. Think that centrist means that you are a fence sitter or someone who refuses to form an opinion on anything and instead just sticks to the center, trying to stay neutral. That's even what I used to think it meant to be a centrist. But I call myself a centrist not because I'm neutral on things. I mean, it's me. I'm not neutral on anything, right? But more so because I just hold views that align. Some of my views align with the right, some of my views align with the left, and I'm not entirely sure which I agree with more, I guess. So I'm a centrist in the sense that I stand on the center and I hold some beliefs from the right, some beliefs from the left, but I'm not a centrist in the sense that I'm neutral or have no opinion or something.
Okay. And what views in particular have changed since you left the right?
Well, my biggest one is definitely on the LGBT issues, which I've talked about pretty extensively on my channel, just about how I used to be very biologically, like a biological essentialist when it came to transgender issues, and just kind of coming to learn like what gender means versus sex. That's been a pretty big eye-opener for me.
And I know that Vosh helped you out, but is there anyone else in particular that have helped you out during this transition?
Trying to think. I mean, I appreciate everyone really who has like supported me for being vocal about my opinions changing. Vosh probably played the biggest role as far as like debating me and presenting some pretty good arguments, which then forced me to kind of do my own research and reevaluate some things. I also don't agree with the right on the issues of like big tech censorship, which, you know, that was another controversy of mine last year. So those are probably two of the biggest shifts in my beliefs. However, for the people who, I think that a lot of people think that by me leaving the right, it means that I'm joining the left, when that is simply not true. In reality, I still hold, like I said, a lot of right-wing beliefs. I mean, I'm pro-gun, I'm anti-abortion. These are just a few beliefs that I think align a lot more with the right than the left right now.
What is your reaction to losing support from a portion of your fan base, just for simply changing your views?
I mean, it's to be expected as a content creator with over 600,000 subs. I mean, I'm gonna lose people when I, come out, especially with something as big as me saying that I'm leaving the right, especially because I understand I built my brand a bit on being like a conservative. So I understand that leaving the right can cause me to lose some support. It's not fun. I mean, I don't like looking and seeing that I've lost like 12,000 subs this past week, but it happens. And you know what? I would much rather have a channel. I would much rather watch my channel die and go down in flames, knowing that I stuck by what I believed in and that I was honest with myself and my fans, rather than see my channel hit 1 million subscribers while just being a grifter or regurgitating talking points that I know my fan base wants to hear.
I would like to add something to that. Like I said, I've been watching you for quite some time. And one of the things that made it very clear that you're that type of person is when you made a video coming out that you were an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since you did that video, it was clear to me that your channel is more about the truth and your honesty rather than just being a grifter. So the other question I have is, in what way has this changed your relationships with other content creators?
I mean, it's obviously people are saying that I'm like burning bridges or slandering people, when really I'm just calling out certain content creators, calling them out for how I see it. Uh, I mean, it's definitely, I would say, hurt my relationship with some content creators. It's helped with others, but something that I've said a lot, and I'll say again, is I never got on YouTube to make friends. So like I've never like it's cool to have other content creators. It's cool to have other people that can kind of relate to having a YouTube channel and kind of being a public figure. But my purpose for getting on YouTube was never to make friends. I was never part of the little cliques or the YouTube friend group or the VidCon stuff. Like I kind of always stayed away from that stuff. Not because I have anything against it, but just because, yeah, like my channel has always been more about just me being able to share my honest opinion about whatever I believe, rather than making friends. So it has, yes, it has damaged my relationship with some content creators, but I don't really care because, again, as long as I'm being true to myself and I'm being honest with my audience, I don't care if it loses me all my friends. Like I did this, I'd never started my channel to make friends.
Mm-hmm. And I know a few people watching would most likely want to hear this. So the quartering came out and said you're an SJW. And you actually made a video in response to him. And I have watched it. And you made it very, very clear because he was claiming that you called several other YouTubers neo-Nazis. And after watching the video, which again, I've watched other stuff that you have done, but when I watched that video in particular, you made it absolutely clear that you have never called them neo-Nazis, in particular, like the two specifically, like Lauren and Blair. You said, no, they're not neo-Nazis. I am not saying this. So how do you feel about people who are trying to damage you in that way? It just seems like a lot of people are not actually doing their research and watching your videos.
Yeah, well, right now, I mean, I've been in a lot of drama. There's definitely some misconceptions going around about what I've said. And yeah, it doesn't make me happy that the quartering is essentially slandering me as an SJW or claiming that I've called all these content creators neo-Nazis or something, when, like you said, I made it explicitly clear that I have not done that, and I still have not. I still wouldn't do that. I don't think the quartering is a neo-Nazi. I don't think that Lauren Chen is a neo-Nazi. I don't think that Blair White's a neo-Nazi. Like that would be an asinine statement to make, because that's just categorically and provably false. So it's definitely annoying, and I also think that it's really telling about how low this SJW bar has been set. It's literally gotten to the point where it's like, oh, you don't want trans people thrown in concentration camps? What an SJW! Like, it's really gotten a little out of hand nowadays. Anyone who I don't really understand why the quartering is so set on calling me an SJW. And if he is, I would be more than happy to debate him on the subject. Only he has chickened out repeatedly from talking to me.
Yeah, I noticed that you posted something, and you were very you posted on Instagram. You said, "Listen, we can debate on these particular topics," and you went 1, 2, 3, and you said we can even have an unbiased moderator here. So if you're willing to do this, please, anyone, share it around, share it to the quartering. I would like to see his response. But again, instead of actually trying to debate you, he's trying to slander you. So
right, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, that I understand. It's pretty frustrating when that happens, but that's why I wanted to have you on, just to clarify those things. Sure. The other thing, actually, I wanted to screen share this for everyone. Okay. So I'm just gonna quickly get screen share up. I wanted to look over your channel videos because, since we're on the subject of people saying that you went full left or, you lost your mind somehow, right. If you're looking at your videos, there's so many different things going on here. You're talking about the anti-LGBT community. You're talking about Onision, you're talking about celebrities, you talk about fat acceptance. You still have videos where you're talking about extreme feminist. And
I actually have a video about that going out today.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, I can't wait to watch that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is your channel. You have a very diverse range of videos. So anyone who's claiming you're a leftist, this pretty much goes against it. This is actually seems more like, again, like you said, a centrist channel.
Right. I mean, I talk about subjects that I want to talk about, right? So that's why you'll see some of these things like the When Feminists Open a Restaurant video. I talk about Caitlin Bennett, and there's one before there where I talk about Jessica Yaniv.
Mhm.
So I mean, some people might say my channel's all over the place. For me, it's really I talk about social politics for the most part, and yeah, I mean, anyone that says I've gone full left or whatever. They're incorrect. And a lot of people too, like, I think that a lot of people who say that haven't actually bothered to watch any of my content, and instead they're just like following what the quartering said. For example, after he did his really poorly put together response video to mine, I got like a bunch of comments from people that were literally just like, "You're an SJW soy boy," or like someone was like, "Communism." They were like, "Communism is bad," and I was like, "Yeah, no shit. When did I ever support communism?" Like,
In fact, in that video, I forgot which one exactly, if it was the why I left or right, but no, it was the quartering one. Your response, you made it very clear that you're not a communist.
right, yeah, like I don't like communism at all. So I don't know why people are I think people just kind of assume, or they hear someone say, "Oh, this guy's an SJW," so they just kind of pounce on it. But you know, listen, I've been in like since day one of my YouTube channel, I've been in controversies. I've been through this kind of thing multiple times, and I always know how it works. And I can tell you right now, I'll predict it to you. Right now, you know, I'm in a lot of controversies, so I'm gonna see, like we've already been talking about, like I'm getting lower views and I'm losing some subs right now. But that'll last for a few weeks and then it'll pass. And in times, like in a certain amount of time, people are gonna look back and realize that I was right. I mean, that's what happens so many times with my controversies. Like everyone dogpiles me, everyone starts shitting on me, and I just like sit back and just take it. And then time goes by, and then people look back and they're like, actually, he kind of had a point here, because once like the hostility calms down, right? So give it enough time, and people will recognize that I'm right, or that I'm not some kind of a grifter just trying to make money by like being honest or something. I don't know. So it is what it is. You know, you just got to kind of have a thick skin and just deal with the hate for a little while. It's not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I found that really interesting how it seems a lot with the facts over feelings crowd is really just like going overboard with their feelings right now.
Mm-hmm.
So they seem to be upset with you over, and in my opinion, nothing actually. You made an announcement on Instagram. I do believe it was on the middle or end of December,
Mm-hmm.
where you clarified that your views have changed, but that again, you got support from a lot of your fan base, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But again, there's just a few people that get hurt somehow.
Right.
And when it comes to grifting, actually, I wanted to talk about that. What is your thoughts about people calling you a grifter? It's because that term is being overplayed. I do get it,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no evidence from what I've seen that makes you a grifter. Because in my opinion, a grifter is someone, again, that does something to get money.
Mm-hmm.
They're not honest with their views.
Right.
When you made that video, why I left or right, you explained in detail, which, by the way, I put it in the description below. So if
Okay.
anyone didn't watch it, they can watch it. Where you went into detail over how exactly your views have changed. What research have you done? Who have you spoken to? This was clarified a lot in your video.
Mm-hmm.
So for those that are calling you a grifter, do you have anything to say to them?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would actually define grifter as a little more broad too. I would say a grifter is someone who engages in like dishonest tactics, not only to gain money, but just to gain something of value. That's why I think there are such thing as like people who are grifters, and although they're not getting money out of it, they are getting followers or popularity. So to anyone who's actually unironically claiming I'm a grifter, I would just ask them, if I'm a grifter, then how come like I'm losing subscribers, I'm losing views, and by losing views, I'm losing money too. I mean, you know, with the less ad revenue, right? So I mean, I've taken a significant hit financially, and I've taken a significant hit as far as my fan base goes. If I'm a grifter, I must be a really, really bad grifter. And, I also would want to say the people who claim that I'm just doing it for money, I think that actually that might be, and I don't want to say this too broadly, but I think for some people it might be a little bit of a self-projection, because I think people don't even can't even comprehend that maybe, just maybe, someone would be honest about having a genuine change of heart rather than just doing something for money. So I think that sometimes it shows self-projection on the person who is always throwing those terms around as well.
Yeah, it's possible that they're so used to people sticking to specific views over the years. But this has happened so many other times before. Like Dave Rubin has changed his views. Ariel Scarcella has changed her views. A lot of people have changed their views.
Well, leaving the left is awesome and based, but then if you leave the right, then you're a cock soy boy loser SJW man bun.
Man bun.
Yeah.
Well, funny enough, and this is purely based on my opinion, but I've watched other videos where they say that they left or right. I tried to understand what exactly, political policies exactly that they no longer believe in, agree with, but I don't get that. I just hear a lot of the left is crazy and they scream. Whereas on your side, you were actually precise in what things you like you just said right now. You're still pro-life, you're still pro-gun. So it's just strange how everyone's piling on you for this particular thing when you've been very clear. And when you made that video, no, you made that clip on Instagram just saying, hey, I've changed my views. Even after a while, you really started calling out the far right. And you did a stream with Vosh where you said you want to get rid of the far right from your channel. You just don't want to deal with anyone that's farther right. You don't have anything against conservatives, which you made very clear as well. You said the problem is the far right.
Right.
So for people that don't really know the difference, can you clarify?
Yeah, I mean, I would define your standard conservative Republican is someone more along the lines of Ben Shapiro, who I've met Ben Shapiro, and although I don't agree with all of his takes, especially on LGBT issues, I mean, he's a nice guy and he's definitely a genuine person. I don't think he's a grifter or anything. I think that he really believes the things he says. The far right are more the people who, I'm trying to think how to articulate it. The far right, I would say, are more the people who are obsessed with preserving American culture, whatever the hell that means. The problem is, and I know not every conservative is part of the far right. It would be crazy for me to ever make a suggestion like that. I think that sometimes there's far right ideology that gets a little intertwined with the more general conservative crowd, and that is kind of the idea of preserving tradition over the idea of liberty, which is something I talked about in my video on why I left the right. Just this kind of idea that it's not traditional for there to be trans people or gay people, so their liberty should be withheld for the sake of upholding tradition. And again, I don't think every conservative believes that. I want to make that explicitly clear for the people the quartering who might be tuning in. But yeah, no, I don't think every conservative believes that, but I do think that in a way, sometimes the general conservative crowd sort of is useful to the far right, if that makes sense. But there's definitely a clear distinction. So yeah, I mean that would probably be my differentiating. What's the word I'm looking for there? I told you I'm not good with interviews either. Right?
Neither am I. Let's be honest.
There you go.
You're doing good so far.
We're all just human here. But yeah, no, that's one of the distinctions I would make. It's also it kind of depends on who exactly you're talking about, right? I think there are people that are far right sympathizers, and then there are people that are actually far right. It kind of just varies depending on the person.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to talk about a bit. Again, we're not going to name names, but we want to I want to make things very clear that even when you call out someone for being a bit too close with white nationalists, there's so much backlash that you receive after, and it's a lot of the whole it's just a joke thing that people come out with. And I think they utilize that very well, actually, because it's such a simple thing you can say. You know, someone can do something horrible. You can just say, well, they were just joking. And then it's all the proof that there's a possibility that that person holds those views is just thrown out the window because it's just a joke. So I think there has to be, and sadly, I see that a lot with the right as well. I mean, for example, the left has a lot of infighting. The right seems to just not want to talk about real neo-Nazis, the white nationalists. They're either probably afraid that they're going to get some backlash if they talk about it. But again, if someone's talking, still talking to like someone like Richard Spencer or claiming that they're not racist, talking about the Great Replacement, talking to people like Tara McCarthy, talking about how there's the whole white genocide thing. That's bordering on you're an alt-right sympathizer. And the issue I have with that is that why would someone put themselves in that situation if they didn't hold those same views? Or, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and I also think that, like, I don't think, for example, interviewing someone who is on the far right makes you necessarily like a far right sympathizer, because there, in my mind, there always needs to be room for conversation, and I think that one of the best ways to defeat bad ideas is by letting those bad ideas be heard, because most people, right, when they hear like far right kind of ideals, they tend to pull away from them rather than go towards them. But I also think the reason that it's so controversial now to like call people white nationalist or anything, or a white nationalist sympathizer or something, it's, to be honest, it's a bit of the fault of the left as well, because I think that the left is far too lenient with whom they deem to be a neo-Nazi or a white nationalist or something. So those terms have, in a way, lost their meaning, I think. So I think that's why a lot of people who are white nationalists are almost able to slip under the radar, because if you try to call them on it, then they say, oh, well, you just label everyone a white nationalist that you don't agree with, kind of like what Quartering tried to do to me. And I think that it's unfortunate, it's slippery, and it's dishonest, but the left using those terms too liberally aids that kind of behavior in a way.
I see something similar when it comes to, in general, I feel, because I'm on the left. I used to be center right. I've noticed we're very passionate people. we that's why you see a lot of people maybe screaming and getting a little bit boisterous, because we're passionate about what we feel. So again, that's something that is helpful for us, but it can also be bad for us, because the right will take that and go, see, they're crazy. And then a lot of people that are like, again, on the fence, they're not really sure where they really stand. Not in particular, not actually talking about you in this case, but like people that are not really into politics would see that and go, huh, I would actually like to go with these people. And there's a sense of like belonging when it comes to the far right. There's also the whole how they utilize, like how they dress, how they behave, and to come off better. You would see people like Antifa wearing like covering their face and wearing all black. Generally, the public would be kind of nervous about people like that. But when they see someone wearing a suit and their hair is cut and they're talking just like politely to everyone, you're gonna assume that that person's the more positive side of things. So if people are more aware of those things, I think that can help them really differentiate. Even me, I can't even say that word. See like the difference between like, okay, what's reality and what's not. So yeah, I think that's important to, just for example, like when we're talking about politics, again, there's nothing wrong. Yeah, David Pakman even had a Richard Spencer on his channel. There's nothing wrong with interviewing someone, like you said, but I do think there has to be ways you approach these things.
You need to be prepared to challenge the person, I think. And I do think that, yeah, like, Lauren Chen, for example, she interviewed Richard Spencer, which I don't think makes her far right or anything. I think that's all fine for like conversation, but it's more so the comments she made afterwards about how like, oh, maybe people don't like Richard Spencer because he presents his ideas too well or something. That was more where it came across like a little more like she was sympathizing with him rather than challenging him on some of his like asinine viewpoints. So there's a lot. It's nuanced. There's a lot that goes into it, and for just interviewing someone does not make you a bad person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's even the after effect as well. Like, let's say, like, for example, I'm interviewing you right now. There's no proof that you're an extremist. Richard Spencer, there's proof that he's an extremist. So if I were to interview an extremist, I think I would have to have more pushback. But let's say if I'm doing a simple interview like this, I don't see how I would have to be like, hey, what are you doing?
Right, exactly. No, I know. And it definitely depends on who the person is that you're interviewing. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's another thing people don't seem to understand, that like if you have a white nationalist on your channel, don't really smile in their face and not try to like challenge them. Don't promote their work after, which has some people have done before. They promoted white nationalists, their books. Don't follow it up by saying, I don't know why people are saying you're racist. Because then once again, everyone knows he wants a white ethno state. I mean, that clip that came out where he was just like going on this whole racist rant. It's like, if, in my opinion, if this happens, if I interviewed someone like that and I found out that information, I would try to clarify to my audience, and I would try to take down those videos and be like, look, I don't want any association with this person. Clearly they're mental. And I don't want to talk to them. So, but again, that makes people feel like, okay, maybe she doesn't feel this way. Maybe she's not an outright sympathizer. Maybe she's not a white nationalist. But I can see why. I mean, again, there's people on the left that would like scream racism anywhere they. I mean, it even happened to me a few times where people were coming up to me and saying these things. But it's the stuff you do. It's the stuff you actually say and do in your life. If you constantly have white nationalists on your channel and you're not promoting them and you're continuing to promote them, that's why people are calling you this. It might not be true. Maybe you're not a white nationalist, but the evidence is pointing towards that, if that makes sense.
Right.
So regardless of that, I wanted to change the subject to something that everyone is having to deal with right now, and it's the coronavirus. So what are your thoughts on the anti-quarantine protest going on?
You know what? So I understand a little bit of the concern for sure. I don't want like a lot of government interference in our day-to-day lives. So I understand that some people are concerned about maybe like some possible government overreach. However, the protests are definitely really stupid, especially like when you see people angry that they can't get haircuts or something. That's just like a whole new level of selfishness. I mean, it's not like, hey, I'm sick and I need to go to the doctor, but it's like you want to force someone else to work on your behalf. It's pretty selfish, I think. And I mean, we know for a fact that COVID spreads by being in close proximity with people for long periods of time. So the quarantine order, like that makes sense to me. But I do want to say that like I understand some of the people's concerns as far as government overreach. But people like you probably noticed a lot of people are trying to make it into like this Christian victim narrative with the churches being closed.
I have seen a few videos of people continuing to go to church, and
well, there are also people just screaming that like because people weren't able to like do like congregate for church, that it somehow was like an attack on religious freedom or something. When in reality, it was like it had nothing to do with the fact that it was religious or that it was Christian. Because if like a mosque was open, for example, it would have been shut down also. So. Yeah. I agree that like, we want to keep an eye on it, make sure the government doesn't engage in any kind of overreach. But the quarantine orders do make sense to me. And I think the people protesting it, especially the way they're going about protesting it, is pretty stupid.
I would have to agree with you big time on that because you can pray at home. You can, I even have a friend that does prayer on Facebook Live.
Yeah.
He gets a bunch of other people together and they pray together.
Yeah. My parents actually, their church is doing like a virtual church now. So like every morning they tune in on the TV and they all like, go to virtual church or whatever. So, I mean, the whole Christian religion is about how like God is with you always. So you shouldn't need to go to church to like talk to God.
Yeah. And then people were saying like they're protected by Jesus' blood all over them, and I just found that super hilarious. I'm just like, okay, I not to offend anyone, but Jesus' blood doesn't protect you from coronavirus. This COVID-19, like you said, spreads rapidly. We had something similar in Vancouver as well. I don't know if you saw the video. There was anti-quarantine protests there too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so you're quarantined. How do you feel about quarantine life? Is it any different from your regular day life?
To be honest, no, not really. I mean, a little bit, like I'm not able to like hang out with my friends and stuff, but overall, it's really not been very different. I mean, I sit at home, I work on videos, and I hang out with my family, and that's kind of all I was doing even before the quarantine. So yeah, no, it hasn't been too different for me, to be honest.
And you
Makes
can
me
do
sound like a loser, but still.
No. Actually, there's a bunch of people that have said the same exact thing. I'm actually losing my mind, so I don't hold the same feelings as you do.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, it's a good thing either way, because I think if we continue to quarantine, even in Canada, because I'm from Canada, there has been we're flattening the curve. Let's say like it's getting better here.
Right.
So I don't feel that nervous anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm concerned about the states at the moment.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's dying down right now. However, part of me feels like it might be dying down because of the quarantine. So that's, I think that it's best for us all to be erring on the side of caution.
Mm-hmm. I actually heard that they're going to test in Germany, I believe. They're going to test they're going to test the vaccine. So
Well, there's still going to be plenty of people that won't take the vaccine because it makes them autistic or something.
What are your thoughts on that, by the way? I'm just curious.
Oh, the people who are against the COVID vaccine or just general anti-vaxxers?
Just general anti-vaxxers.
Oh, yeah, no, anti-vaxxers are brain-dead Neanderthals. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't give a fuck. They're probably some of the dumbest dipshits I've ever spoken to in my life. I actually debated an anti-vaxxer at believe it or not, at a pro-life march. I went to a pro-life march to interview people, and this woman was spreading a bunch of bullshit that there's like fetal cells in vaccines. And then I literally did like a very quick Google search on it just to see like, okay, well, let's actually see what their claims are. And it was no basis in fact. I mean, there was like, there was like one original vaccine that was created by like extracting cells from a like consensually aborted fetus back in like the 80s or something. But even like the Catholic Church has said that like it doesn't have fetal cells in it, and there's such like a large distance between it that like it's not a sin to take a vaccine or something. Like, I mean, even the fucking Catholic Church, like. So yeah, no, anti-vaxxers, I think that the people who like refuse to vaccinate their kids, for example, I think that's child abuse. It's just straight up.
I mean, I'm not going to name names, but I have spoken to anti-vaxxers, and I was just like, oh, I was actually shocked. Like I'm not very vocal when it comes to things. I'm kind of just like in the corner going, did I just hear that right?
Right.
So when it comes to like COVID-19, are you a bit more worried with with them? Are you worried that if they're not going to take this vaccine, is it going to be harder to fight?
Not too much. I think that's something I'll start to be concerned about once we actually have a vaccine. But I also think that the majority of Americans are smart enough to take the vaccine.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I have faith in you, America. Don't let me down.
We'll hold America to that. Let's be honest.
Yeah, let's do it.
How do you think YouTube has changed you in particular outside of your political beliefs?
Oh, outside of my political beliefs. Could you elaborate on what you mean by that?
Well, did it like change like how you view yourself? Were you ever someone who was too shy to go on camera?
Actually, yeah, I used to be way back when I was younger. I didn't. I was not very comfortable being in front of the camera, but that just kind of changed over time. Being a YouTuber, it's changed me in a lot of ways. It's definitely made my life a lot more stressful at times, but it's also provided an outlet for me to, like I've been saying, finally have a platform where I can be honest and open about things that I believe in and what I feel. Overall, I'd say being a YouTuber has definitely made me like a better person, a better version of myself. But it definitely has its challenges as well.
And other than like the whole political sphere, like what kind of challenges would you say you have?
Well, I mean, being in drama, it can be very exhausting, and it does get pretty stressful at times. Other challenges, just sometimes YouTube is just stupid. The website just doesn't always work very well. Algorithm issues, always trying to figure out the algorithm is challenging. It's just a lot of different things, but overall, I'd say there's far more good that comes out of it than bad.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of that, I forgot to mention Ella Grant says hi.
Hi, Ella Grant.
Yeah, she just texted me a while back, and I'm just like, oh yeah. So, my last question actually for you is, do you have any advice for those that want to start a political YouTube channel?
Yeah, I mean, just make sure that you're being honest about what you believe. Make sure you are cut out for it. Like, I don't mean that to sound like a douchey thing to say, but you got to make sure that you have some thick skin. If you're easily offended by mean comments or people saying that you're ugly or stupid or fat or something, then like it might not be the best avenue to pursue. So if you have self-esteem issues, maybe reconsider it. But yeah, just be prepared to have some thick skin and present your opinions best you can and as honestly as you can. And also just don't give up. I tell a lot of people that, like, just don't give up. YouTube does have its challenges, and especially in politics, it's a very oversaturated market now. So just be prepared to persevere, do what you got to do, try to stay in the game, and just don't give up. Sometimes it just takes being consistent, and it just takes putting your all into it to really find success. And also, finally, I would tell anyone who's thinking about getting YouTube, please do not get on YouTube for the money, please, because I have actually spoken to people who are not even political, but they're more so like, hey, I really wish I could make money on YouTube, kind of like you, Hunter. And I'm like, I didn't get on YouTube to make money. I'm glad that I make money on it now, but I worked a little part-time job at a clothing store when I started my YouTube channel, and I started it as a hobby and as something that I was really, passionate about. Money was not really on my mind for when I began my YouTube channel. So I would tell that if you have ulterior motives like making money by starting your channel, you probably should reconsider the YouTube channel in general, because you have to have a level of passion to really, persevere through all the ups and downs.
Yeah, I feel like if anyone's going in it for the money, I think they just want to they think it's quick cash.
Right. And you know what? Some of the people, like some of my friends who don't have YouTube, but they see me like having a YouTube, they kind of, I think, view it that way a little bit. And I always tell them, I'm like, don't get on YouTube. If your goal is just to make money, do not get on YouTube, because like I said, I'm not saying that I'm the perfect model to follow or anything, but when I got on YouTube, I had the passion for it. It was a hobby. I loved doing it. And then slowly but surely it turned into something that I could make money off of. But yeah, just if money is your main goal, then you should go find a different job. Don't do YouTube.
OnlyFans.
Right, there you go. There you go. Anyone can get naked.
Well, actually, that's all the questions I have for you. But do you want to add anything? You want to talk about anything else?
Who is Ella Grant? She sounds very familiar, but I just can't put my finger on who that is.
Yeah, she's a YouTuber. Actually, I can screen share her, just in case anyone else wants to like.
Ella Grant. That name sounds really familiar.
I'm just gonna screen share real quick.
Okay. Is she on the left or the right, or is she more of a center?
I think she's more of a center now. In the beginning, like she was leaning more right, but I think she's leaning more left now.
Okay.
She's super nice, by the way. Like, I actually, she came to Montreal for her sex reassignment surgery,
Okay.
and I was just like so happy to see her. She's one of the nicest people.
Oh,
So,
very cool.
So yeah, like her videos are really well done. Like a lot of like effort and just
Yeah. They look very professional.
yeah, and I think she's actually in school at the moment for this, so she takes it very seriously, and
Okay.
she's doing well for herself and on YouTube. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, good for her.
Yeah.
Cool.
So thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me on. This was a great conversation. Oh, and something funny I wanted to throw in. A couple years ago, actually, me and Carissa read the article you made on me about why you were no longer a fan.
Yeah, man.
Way back. And you know what? There was most of it, no offense, I kind of blew off. No offense, but there were a few points you made that I was kind of like, actually, that's not like a bad point. That kind of makes sense. So just thought you might like to know that, me and Carissa a few years ago sat down and read that together.
I actually had no idea you saw it, and I actually deleted it before because after I looked at it, I felt like I was being too harsh.
Oh, really?
And then afterwards, like it's funny how you're seeing it and going, okay, that kind of makes sense, and I'm thinking I'm going too harsh here. So it just
there were one or two points that like I actually could kind of understand your perspective on. Yeah. But also like you have to understand that at the time, I kind of like I have to kind of have a bit of an attitude where like you kind of ignore the backlash or the haters. And I know you were never a hater, but still,
Yeah, actually, I've watched you for like several years, actually. And
okay, very
after I did that like article, I was like, I don't feel too good about that, so I deleted it and I started to look at you a bit more differently. Like I was just like making sure that like continuing to see your progress, and I was like, you know what, I don't feel comfortable with that, and that's something I want to make very clear as well in this interview, is that I really don't like having anything that I no longer hold views of like on my channel. Just like you said, anything that you no longer hold, you got rid of on your channel.
Right.
I was the same way. I was center right. I saw a few videos that I felt like I was going way too far with. I just did not feel comfortable with, and I was like, this is not me. So I deleted them. Unfortunately, you can't do the same thing when you're talking to someone else on another channel. So that's the unfortunate thing. But yeah, like thank you for letting me know that you saw it. I had no idea.
Yeah, no problem. It was very interesting.
Well, other than that, I don't have much to say. This was really fun, and you're always welcome, especially Carissa as well. You guys are always welcome to be on my channel. Like if you, once in a while I have like hangouts with a bunch of people.
Okay.
So if you feel like doing that, if you have time.
Yeah, sure. Please do. Please feel free to hit Carissa up anytime.
Okay.
That'd be great.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much, by the way. This was amazing, and hope to talk to you again. Thank you for clarifying everything.
No problem. Thanks for having me on. Have a good one.
Oh, and also thank you for tuning in, everyone. And I left everything in the description box below. So just check out Hunter's channel, check out Why I Left It Right. And thanks once again. Bye.